Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to yet another edition of the show. Start date 2015-266 at 22:05 Eastern Standard Time. We want to thank you all for joining us tonight. We have a lot of things to discuss tonight. But for this one, we're going to name this episode The Kinetic Konundrum. Featuring the Kemocite pain in the butt issue that we're having here. But before we go on any further, we're going to introduce the panel. For tonight, though, our chief intelligence officer is off on a mission. He's gathering up some more information for us for next week's episode. We'll be staying tuned for damn sure when he comes back with this info. Leading us off tonight will be our chief logistics officer, Captain Timberwolf. Lead us in, good sir.
Oh, hairball, sorry.
It's been that type of week, hasn't it?
Thanks. It has been, I'm sorry. Ooh.
Our Chief Science Officer, Captain Snipey, 47 Alpha. Who's somewhere in Australia working on Sabat.
Okay. Sorry, hi, how you going?
He's somewhere over there working on that. And his husband, the Chief of Cheesy Tactics, Captain SOB.
Wife.
Wow.
Our Chief... Our Chief Ironic Medic, Captain MK.
I'm declaring official plague status. Something's going on here, guys. No more kissing.
Something's right here. You know what? We got to listen to our Chief Medical Officer.
We shed a lot.
We have to listen to our Chief Medical Officer. Make sure you take your pills.
I'm pretty much the only one that can override you guys if you're sick, remember?
This is true. This is true. Computer, activate the Chief Emergency Role-Playing Hologram.
I am so glad that I am photons and I don't catch what you guys are spreading with your kissing and butterfly kisses and yeah.
There's some days, you know what, I envy you.
So what you're saying is you can safely suck face because you're a photon.
No.
Understood. I gotcha.
That's when I turn myself off.
Anyway, going into this thing tonight, the biggest thing since those Krenum consoles decided to go all Warp Factor 9 on everybody and start stacking buffs like crazy. Kemocite. I mean, I don't know how else to put it other than it's broke. It's really broken. Really, really broken. To the point where we literally had to comb through weeks and weeks of notes and hypotheses and suggestions on how to devise tests in order to be able to try and narrow this thing down. And we finally came up with something. So kudos out to the DPS After Dark crew. Kudos to Alfie over at the DPS channels. And kudos to a couple of the bug bashers who were helping us, especially when writing this thing up so that it can be submitted for review. It was a headache, but we got it. Long story short, if you stacked multiple Kemocites and you activated any type of AoE ability, it was proccing all of them. All of them. And if you were using torpedoes and you activated Kemocite, it would have a pre-proc for that one that you activated. And we suspected the same thing with Fire at Will, but it's 100% confirmed for torpedo spread. You activate it, you saw the pre-proc before it impacted on the target, and on target impact, whatever active Kemocites that you had, boom, all of them showed up on the target and on a 1 kilometer radius from that target. So, yeah, it broke.
The best way to describe it is one of our buddies, his name is Tankia in game. He's been doing some testing with it, having multiple copies. And on an HSE, a Hive Space Elite, where I believe he did about 160k DPS in the run, 152k of that damage was Kemocite. So literally about 95% of his 160k was done by Kemocite, which is an astronomical amount. That is to the point of, okay, this is not just any kind of bug.
It was pretty damn bad. And we'll put it that way.
At the risk of reminding everyone of my small role in what happened to the plasma explosion console recently, this is a very, very similar behavior of what I saw with those plasma explosion consoles. Now, apparently they worked properly under fire at will. And I'm assuming that with Torps thread as well, if they were available for Torps, that would work as well. But you saw a separate behaviour with those consoles with AOE attacks that you did not see. And so when I say AOE attacks, that's excluding cannon scatter volleys, and that's also excluding cannon scatter volleys in this Kemocite test. That there seems to be a behaviour with these abilities that seems to be common to Torps Red and to Fire at Will. And again, I'd like to thank Alfie and SOB for highlighting that. It is definitely broken.
And this is one of the things where we had several different people weaving in and out during this, trying to isolate what the cause or causes are for these anomalies. And this is something here where multiple people took time off of trying to enjoy the game in order to be able to try and zero in on this. And this is something that we could definitely say the community stepped up and said, hey, look, yeah, this is OP. We're going to have fun with this, but this is way broken. This is not going to be fun for the long run. There's a difference between wanting to be sporting and actually accomplishing something, working with a proper working as intended mechanics. And then there's this, hey, look, this thing allows me to do crazy stupidness with it. I'm going to do it and have fun and go wee, 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 and then laugh at everybody else who can't do that. No, that's not us. That's not what we want.
That being said, though,
we saw
Cryptic's ridiculous response to the plasma explosion consoles. Okay, they turned off a function that was working properly because other stuff didn't work properly. Okay, and I had a heated discussion with Bordicus on the forums about it. It was a ridiculous response, and I'm not going to sugarcoat that. It was stupid. Okay, now the risk of the community raising these sorts of issues is yet another ridiculous response from Cryptic to patch these issues. Just for God's sakes, fix the abilities so they work properly. Okay, and we'll stop highlighting these issues. Okay, and that's my biggest concern
we
when
need
I
to keep
highlight
highlighting issues. That's the thing. We need to keep highlighting them, but we should expect maybe a little bit better response, though. I guess the response could be better on both sides, where emotions are a little bit high right now regarding it.
Of course.
The big thing is it can be fixed without it having a nerf to it. The whole thing with
Agreed.
plasma explosions was the criticals were working with one firing mode and not the others. So it was understandable to take the criticals out for fire at will until they could be fixed for other abilities. What was not understood was the damage nerf as well, taking away what looked like about 30% of their damage away.
There's a further nerf in that they can miss, also minor, but should be mentioned.
And now that is the same concern being seen here. Is Kemocite is a great ability. If it was working properly, it is still a great ability. But the concern is that we all have, a lot of the community has, is that when it gets fixed, there will also be a nerf on its abilities when it doesn't need a nerf, because it's a fantastic ability as itself. It's just all of this, it's activating when it's not being activated, and it's multi-procking. There's a lot of issues with that need to be fixed that do not require a nerf of the ability, and that's kind of the thing that we're concerned about. Is about the best way to put it. We are concerned that we don't want that to happen.
Or even a short-term nerf would be okay, but I think an additional concern is that stuff is getting nerfed with a promise to return it, and then we don't have a schedule on when that ability will return in the correct function.
May I interject here at one point? May I interject here at one point with the sudden change to the AoE effect for Neutronic? Can anybody tell me the rhyme or reason behind that one?
Do you
No,
mean
sir.
the target limit, or...?
Yeah, the target limit. I mean, with other AoE abilities in this game, Why is there a target limit put on this one weapon?
Because of its strength.
Yeah,
I'm
functionally,
gonna hazard
functionally
again.
we know why, but it was to mitigate lag, from what I understand.
Lag, graphic lag. That's what I was going to hazard a guess at.
Then going on that decision, that we've seen Kemocite cause lag, especially with what it's doing currently. We've seen it lag out
We
whole
definitely
runs.
Whole maps.
That would mean that one of their fixes would probably using the neutronic as an example. They would limit the targets on Kemocite affecting as well.
Well, I don't think it's so much that, but if it's, and this is just me taking a wild guess at this. Remember on Reddit where they posted about attack pattern beta checking for every available power first before it's applying the debuff on the target? What if the same thing is happening here with Kemocite, where it's running a check to see how many available Kemocites there are, running that pass as with the old plasma consoles, and then checking for every available ability that's there for that ship to see if it could apply Kemocite onto the target. And if it's running that check constantly, that's where you would see a server degradation issue when it's being fired.
I wonder if the shrapnel torpedo from the TSAD has any similar problems.
That's
I
something
don't
we need to
I don't
investigate.
know anyone with it, but it might be something to test.
Yeah, I've
It
got
might
that
be something
tool.
to
We
look
should,
at
we should
then.
test that. Yeah.
We'll definitely have to test it out to see that. But yeah, pretty much right now, yes, we know Kemocite's broken. Our message to the devs is, please fix it properly. Don't nerf it. Fix it. We don't want it overperforming to this. Not just because, hey, look, it's skewing numbers, but because it actually is having an impact on the game itself. To where people can enjoy, runs, doing anything else with it. So let's get that fixed, please, and let's get it fixed properly without over nerfing it to the point where
Yeah, with some balance. I think balance is what we're seeking,
Exactly,
not an
exactly.
advantage specifically.
Yeah.
but
like
balance.
for me, I'm in the minority here. We're saying the crits for the plasma explosion consoles needed to be removed since all of them couldn't have it for whatever reason. Okay, great, remove them. But reducing the damage on top of that was a little bit too far, in my opinion.
I lost about 1/6 of my DPS after the nerf, which I made up for it, but it was tough for a while.
Yeah, well, it happens. It happens.
I think
Yep,
the
it
biggest
happens.
the biggest concern that I've got is that, and you brushed on it earlier, Mikey, was that they go and make a sudden fix to an ability to level it out or take away the peaks and troughs to it, but they never come back to it, and that's my genuine concern.
Some things definitely still need to be revisited to date, I believe.
Yeah, from years ago, and I understand that they've got schedules to meet and those sort of things, but I'm playing devil's advocate here. I don't think they'll ever come back and fix those plasma explosion consoles.
And here's one of the reasons why there's a concern for it. It's not because, hey, look, we want big numbers, although that does play a part into it. Let's be honest, it does. The other part is, if there's going to be new content, and whether it's just damage sponges or a more robust AI for the enemies that we'll be facing, if they're going to be harder, and they're going to be scaled to where these items, abilities, or weapons were in their former iterations, then we're already at two disadvantages down. One, because we had to deal with whatever it is that we're facing now, but with them designed for the first iteration of those weapons or abilities or powers, and not what they are now. That is the concern that we have.
We're kind of trying to look at this, at least from some extent, from the casual player's perspective, to which it's even a larger impact.
Like, you can take it even further. Imagine the amount of resources that's gone into people in this game upgrading those plasma explosion consoles to gold. You know what I mean? Like, just touching the plasma explosion consoles again, and then under a certain expectation that they do a certain thing, and then that suddenly gets taken away. It is a little bit unfair. Now, this is a different example with Kemo where this is actually broken. For you to have an ability be set off by an AoE ability and not even activating it, and have multiple stacks based on how many of your bridge officers actually have it equipped at a time, that's badly broken. But again, it points to a similar behavior that I saw under the plasma explosion issue, where AoE abilities are interacting with some other abilities in this game differently to either single target abilities or some of the cannon abilities.
The specific thing that kind of hurt too, I don't know if you remember this specifically, Snipey, but the timeline went something like this. The meta started to become the plasma consoles are very economical to upgrade for the amount of damage they put out. In other words, a lot of people were pushing them to epic because it was a pretty decent thing to do. They were putting out a lot more damage. Then you had the upgrade weekend, right? Remember the first upgrade weekend that occurred, where everyone was like, "Oh my God, it's finally the time to upgrade these plasma consoles." Immediately following that week was the nerf.
Yep.
And so I don't think it was intentional. I'm not attributing any malice to those specific events, but that's what happened. Right?
It probably wasn't intentional, but that was the kicker.
Not at all. Not at all. But that's basically the order in which events occurred, and I think a lot of people felt really burned by that.
Oh, absolutely.
All right.
I always try to keep things level, but that upset me just a little bit. Sorry, go on.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I think it upset a lot of people, and I wasn't the one using them, and I saw this, and I'm like, yeah, this is wrong, man. This just feels wrong. Feels like you've been cheated.
It hurt, and we got over it. And we moved on. Most of us. There you go.
We moved on, but there was
we just don't want to repeat on Kemocite. That is the moral of our story.
I need my plasma explosions.
It's okay to say that we moved on, Mikey, but I think we all advanced
During the day, I don't cry anymore.
Cynicism level. I think we all advanced our cynicism level slightly from that, and that doesn't help anybody.
Yeah.
That doesn't help us as players. It doesn't help Cryptic's business. It doesn't help anybody. So
really, I'm not angry. I'm just sad. That's all.
We just don't like to see a repeat of history again.
Right. Exactly right. I don't even use Kemo, and I would hate to see that happen.
Break the cycle.
Question for everybody here, and this also goes out to the audience as well. Where would you ever expect to have a lower rank weapon ability outperform a higher rank weapon ability? Specific example.
Torpedoes!
Don't give away the answer. Do you expect a Fire at Will 1 to outperform a Fire at Will 3 at any time?
Ideally, no.
What if I told you there was something that would happen whenever you use a Torpedo High Yield 1 with a Salvo Torp, and the High Yield 1 could outperform the High Yield 3?
Math incoming.
There's going to be some math incoming, but you know what? I'm going to save the math for people who want to use... to want to actually engage their brain and figure out probability formulas and the whole 9 yards. But our chief engineer was kind enough to be able to set up the probability values and help me out with the math on this one here, just to make sure I wasn't crazy. So what we're going to do, I'm going to show this thing over here at one point, is we are going to see this chart. And I don't know if I can zoom in and make it a little bit bigger. Nope. But I'm going to have this link available for everybody to look at. The numbers are down here. And this is it where we just put in any value for any of the torpedoes. So you see high yield 1, 2, and 3. And given a specific crit D, assuming a low crit hit, but a high enough crit D, you will see high yield 1 outpace high yield 2, and then even high yield 3 itself.
Well, we must be in the mirror universe then.
You would think we're in the mirror universe, but we're not. And I could tell you this has happened for me constantly. It keeps scratching my head. Why is my high yield 1 numbers doing better than my high yield 3? Why is this happening? Why is this happening? Wrote it down. And it has suddenly just dawned on me, holy hell. We have a situation in the game where a high yield 1 can outperform a high yield 3. Now, granted, according to what our chief engineer, Vel, Jarvis, and Alfred came up with, the probability of this happening is 1 in 3. So, if you don't crit at all, this is what you're expected. Your high yield 1 is going to do what is expected and not do as well as high yield 2 or high yield 3. If you start critting and your crit D is around the 150 range, your high yield 1 just barely passed the damage potential of high yield 2 if one torpedo crits within that bunch. At 250 crit D, high yield 1 outpaces high yield 3 significantly. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm sitting around the 200 range without any buffs. Because I'm one of those guys where Lady Luck hates my guts. And I say, you know what? Screw this. If I'm only going to crit every so often, I'm going to jack up as much crit D as I possibly can. So when I do crit, you're going to see big numbers and you're going to see them fly. And this is what I started noticing. And I reliably get better results with a high yield 1 on my Salvo Torps than I do with high yield 3. To the point where he's worked out that the Vel has worked out where if I'm doing, somewhere around, APA and a couple other buffs, I'm going to get close to 300% crit D. My high yield 1 is going out the freaking roof. Is that right? Is that expected? Should we have that in the game? What do you guys think?
It can't be working as intended, just flat out.
It cannot be.
There is a question in the chat for you, Odin. Somebody asked, or Darth Proteus asked, how many shots did you do to get those numbers?
All of them. No,
I think he meant how many shots of whiskey.
Yeah, how many shots of whiskey? Literally, what I did to get the math down was pop open the tooltips and compare those numbers to the logs, and then seeing, okay, how often do I get crits, and what's the frequency of those crits for each of the torts within the salvo itself. For those who don't know, here's where we're gonna define a couple things here first. One, if you're using any torpedo that fires a salvo of torps, and a salvo being is going to shoot multiple torps, and each one of those torps is going to do an X amount of damage each. Those torps are independent of each other. That means their crit is calculated independently within that salvo. So say, for example, in high yield 1, if I'm firing a photon torpedo, at high yield 1, it fires 2. At high yield 2, it fires 3. And at high yield 3, it fires 4. Each one of those torpedoes within that salvo has an independent chance to crit. Each one of them can roll the dice and say, I'm either going to do big booms or I'm going to have my damage that's based off of the tooltip, plus whatever other buffs that are out there. But for simplicity's sake, we just went off of tooltip numbers here, and we ran the numbers, and then I ran a comparison of my logs to see how often I do crit within the salvos. And it comes up to be very close to what Vel has as far as his probability logs. 2/3 of the time, my high yield 3s would outperform my high yield 1s. About 1/3 of the time, my high yield 1 would outpace my high yield 3s. And that happens based off the way that the numbers were put in for each one of the ranks. At high yield 1, each individual torp has more damage, raw damage being done, than each individual torp of the high yield 3. The way they balance that, so to speak, is that overall, the high yield 3 will give you an overall bigger number than the high yield 1, assuming everything is even. As in no crits or they all crit. And we have the link where we explained it all in Reddit. And it took him a while to wrap his head around it. It took me a while to wrap my head around it before I even went public with it and asked him about it a couple months ago. Went back and revisited it again, and it went through it all and said, yep, it's sound, it's solid. I compared the logs, in between game times, and it's real. It's realistically happening where a high yield 1 can outperform a high yield 3. Again, you are rolling the dice, but at the very least, at 1/3 of the time, a lower rank is going to outperform a higher rank. I don't see that happening in any other game. Do you guys?
No.
Well, if anyone was thinking about moving to torpedoes out there in the game world, you probably just successfully talked them out of it.
The meta should make sense to some degree. I mean, high yield 3 should outperform high yield 1 100% of the time.
And it's I wouldn't call it so much of a bug, because back when this was designed, nobody expected people to have 250 to 300 crit D thrown out there. Nobody expected big boosted numbers like this. So even if only 1 Torp crit out of the entire salvo, you would still see, okay, the high yield 3 would still outperform the high yield 1. Now, granted, the margin was smaller, but you would still see that. Past a certain threshold, though, right around 192, high yield 1 just edges out of high yield 3.
This does point to a deeper problem with these specific torpedoes that it's affecting, because if you recall it on our big Torp video we did about 4 months ago, do you recall that we were both sitting still? I had a bonus defense of about 20%, and you had a bonus accuracy well over 40%. So, you should be hitting me 100% of the time, and about 1/3 of the time, up to half the time, high yield destructible torpedoes would miss me completely.
Oh, that's a completely separate issue altogether.
But it does point to a fact. I mean, it may be a separate issue, but it does point to the fact that there is something inherently wrong in the general coding of these specific torpedoes, especially when interacting with high yield.
Well,
okay,
now you just brought up something else here that I didn't even think about, because accuracy overflow may not even be contributing over to this. Accuracy overflow is supposed to be for anything beyond 100% hit. It's supposed to go into crit hit and crit D.
Minus the defense of the target. Minus the
defense of the target, right. But, right. So once you're beyond that threshold, like say in the test that we were running, I had 32% bonus accuracy, and you had 27% defense at that point in time. So whatever your base defense to hit and my bonus accuracy is, we worked at it. I should have at least about maybe a 10 to 12 points over to be able to from actually landing a solid 100% hit on you.
Yeah, something like that. We all have 100% accuracy and 100% defense, and then whatever you add to the skill tree adds to the bonus accuracy, and then there's weapon modifiers on top of that. There's the specialization trees on the top of that either adds to your defense or to your accuracy, and the net accuracy gain on your end will translate into additional crit H and crit D.
Well, yeah, again, that's something else we'll need to go over and revisit again. But we do have at least one video over there where Snipey was so kind enough to put a nice little fun skit up in front of it, as far as me pulling out my hair over Torps. And that's fun.
We should probably relink that. We should probably relink that link in this show, because it has been out there for 4 months now, and it's a fair amount of people watched it. So it probably would be good just to gently remind Cryptic that some of these issues still haven't been fixed. So that's when we first identified the funny behavior with Kemocite and torpedoes.
Exactly. Way back then. That's when we started identifying it, where high yields weren't benefiting from it, and Torp spread had that double proc on it, and we're wondering what's going on with it at this point in time. So, but yeah, we see what Darth is saying here, and then And even if we're doing static shots, Darth, the point is that this is not including any other team buffs. This is just from a mathematical perspective. And the reality would definitely match. The reality actually would make the situation worse, because then I would have much more damage sources that would benefit the high yield 1 over the high yield 3. So it is kind of scary a bit on that. But this is something is more of like a for review, because I don't think it's a bug. I honestly do not consider it a bug, but it's something that as the abilities have not changed, but the mechanics behind the game, or the sources of powers behind the game, have changed or evolved. We're reaching a point now where we're going to see some oddities within the math itself, to where we have situations like this, and it just so happened to be torpedoes of all things that is going to see this type of thing here. The reason why I'm comparing it with the logs, what I'm doing is I'm just pulling out from a query, pulling out all my salvo hits and crits, and running a comparison with them based off of what Vel came up with mathematically. And I just got slightly over a third of the time where I see high yield 1 outperforming a high yield 3. And I run a lot of concentrate firepower, so people would know that. And this is, yes, within STFs, as well as a couple of solo runs on some maps, and that's it. But you have access to the logs. You have the link for them, and I'll also put the link to the logs there, so anybody can go in and look for themselves and see this. And you can even replicate it. Darth Proteus came up and he said he wanted to do 100 high yield 1s versus a static target, and 100 high yield 3s in the same scenario, and want to see what the results are. Okay, we can do that. We can devise a test, run the scenario there, and then see what happens afterwards. And you will run it based off of how much crit D that you'll actually have on your tune. And then run stuff like APA and whatever else will boost crit D, and then see what happens. So, with that, we actually have an announcement coming up from our Chief of Cheesy Tactics here. He would like to say something, because this is actually a big day for him.
He's a traitor.
No, he's not a traitor. It's a big day for him. We'd like to hear an announcement from him before I make an announcement for him.
The neutronic torpedo is extremely broken and OP, and is currently performing better than the AP Torp.
So, in other words, you've been using the neutronic torpedo for quite a while now.
Maybe.
Yes. So I would like to formally welcome you to the Kinetic community. Your membership number is 3,409. Thank you very much. Membership has its privileges.
The number starts at 3,400.
What are the perks of this membership? Do I get like some projectile upgrade kits or something?
Yes, you do, actually. Yes, you do. As soon as I'm done making the rest of them for Felician, yes, you get a couple.
What you actually get to do is that when you get the notice to drink the Kool-Aid, you got to drink the Kool-Aid with the rest of them. That's basically what you got to do.
Don't hate, because you're going to be joining us sooner rather than later. I'll guarantee it.
I doubt it.
Whoa. Actually, you see, Snipey's current record here is, he put the neutronic on. Go look at the table, go look at his current record.
Did he?
Must be a bug.
He claims it was in a Fleet Nova,
Confirming.
a Romulan TAC that was using elite Romulan drone ships, so...
Well, for some reason, my Fleet Nova could handle Fleet Romulan, those Romulan drone ships. I didn't have a Torp on it, though.
Wait a second. So you did use a torpedo, a kinetic torpedo, on your ship, and you didn't tell us?
Yeah, so I'm number 3410, am I? So I'm the 10th honorary member. Fantastic, awesome.
No, you're 3010. We haven't hit 3400s yet. But congratulations. So the husband and wife team are now officially members of the Kinetic community. All hail the Kinetics. Exactly.
We'll talk about it when we spoon later. Anyway,
well, you know what we need to do is actually we need to be able to all of us get together, bring our favorite ships, and hop into a PvP match and fire all our torps at people. Make sure we load up with a lot of flow caps.
that is a fantastic segue into the next part of the show, which is specifically about PvP. Mikey, would you like to take us in?
You mean regarding the give me a second here, let me catch up.
Pretty much the overall health of PvP and
PvP, a possible solution started
What we were
by...
talking about before we went live, basically regarding balance and how it's almost impossible for someone to cruise in and just either not get obliterated or kind of just not have a good time. It's not fun to come in off the street in PvP anymore. And it used to be okay to enter the queues, and you had a fair chance of running into a 5-man Sad Pandas pre-made and getting obliterated, but sometimes you'd match up and you'd have a good time, and it's nearly impossible to do that now, wouldn't you say, Snipey?
Yeah, it started from a Reddit post from a Reddit member named Kerus, Kerrus, and he wrote a fantastic post on a quality of life suggestion improvement to the PvP world, based on his observations of what's been happening in PvP at the moment, the severe imbalance that exists in PvP at the moment based on some new ship abilities, the sheer amount of immunities, traits like Invincible, and his suggestion, and this is something I've been saying for a while, is instead of having an immunity, have some sort of space dodge that reduces the amount of damage on the abilities that give you immunities. Because
was the engineering R&D trait already grants that, but some sort of expansion on the idea, I think it was.
Yeah. People have their feelings about PvP. PvP in this game specifically, like I remember my first PvP experience in this game. On my first toon, it was a science toon. I think I just made level 15, and there was an in-game mission to go and that will clear when you join a PvP queue, and it was a cap and hold. Capture and hold, for those who don't know, is basically like capture the flag and owning territories. And I remember that I lasted literally about 1.3 milliseconds when I was in there, and I thought, jeez, I'm never doing PvP again. And I was so afraid to go back in PvP, and I used to say stuff like, "Oh
man, I was terrified the first time."
Yeah, but now
PvP match was terrifying.
But now I really enjoy it because it does actually give you a bit of a break from the end game content. It's some PvP people are quite extreme in their views and their attitudes, and you just have to treat them with white noise. But if it wasn't for PvP, I wouldn't know half the people in this room as well as I do.
I can also say I've made some great friends through PvP, and honestly, it's the last. For a long time, it was like the last challenge left in the game. People weren't really no-win scenario. People were really running that at the time. People were counting PvP as that last challenge, and it really is an unending challenge because as new stuff comes out, new players join the game and they build things that make them better. We have team builds. That's where I started really concentrating on my team build, was because of PvP. My build wouldn't exist if not for PvP. Flat out.
Completely agree. And when I was, like, I'm not saying I'm the best PvPer in the world, like there are many better PvPers out there than me, but after only a few months worth of doing PvP and I wasn't the best, it improved my PvE game so much, because in PvP you need to be aware of so much more what's going on around you, and PvE compared to PvP is so much slower. So when you've got your brain trained to look at multiple things, a PvE queue becomes very, very easy, because the NPCs are so much slower, they're not using as many abilities on you. Fundamentally, I think the Star Trek Online PvP is something that it is very predictable. I think that PvP needs to be encouraged in Star Trek Online.
It's got so much potential to be so much better with the space setting, and even ground PvP doesn't suck. Ask Jenna sometime. I've ground PvP'd with him, and it's fun.
Oh, geez, that's a bit of a stretch. If you call space unbalanced, ground is epically unbalanced. Like ground some of the stuff I've seen.
Ground has been brutally unbalanced for much longer than space. Space has only been brutally unbalanced for.
Snipey here's had very, very great experiences in ground PvP, I've been told. Right, Snipey?
I literally I love ground PvP, and I even managed to kill Jenna a couple of times. It was fun.
Sorry, I'm back. Fire alarm just went off. Had something on the stove.
So, Snipey, I heard you've had great
Oh no!
experiences in ground PvP. Is this?
Oh yeah, yeah, it was against one of your mates and yourself, where they were just using this unbelievable amount of unbalanced cheese against me, and I would literally, if I survived in my first space PvP for 1.3 milliseconds, I survived exactly half of that on ground. And then you have the occurrence when you set yourself up as a science tune properly, you cannot be killed on ground no matter what. It's just unbelievably unbalanced. But I think that people who are afraid of PvP, to go into the public queues, do stuff with your fleet.
It's fun. It makes your pulse race, because you're not fighting an NPC. You're not fighting something you know you'll win against.
Exactly.
It is a different kind of challenge, and I didn't like it till I tried it, and I got dragged into it, and I'm grateful. I'll be forever grateful to the Grim Reapers and Callan and Kythor for dragging me into PvP, kicking and screaming and making me love it, because it's badass.
Yes. And I would never look back on that experience as a bad experience.
Never.
Even though I've come so frustrated out of some PvP matches, I still have a lot of fun.
Yes, absolutely. I would never take it back. I think it probably PvP memories are my favorite memories in STO. Period.
But going back to the crux of the subject is what is probably steering a lot of people away from PvP. The guys who actually do have the stones to dip their toe into the water is when they come up against a pilot ship with 45 seconds worth of immunity every minute.
And they just get seamless.
Yeah, stuff like this Kemocite Konundrum that's going on.
Who would drive a ship like that?
You SOB, you, and we can put
Will
our
the
breakfast.
chief of cheesy tactics please stand up?
We can put our video, which has copped a lot of hate on the STO forums, of the Breakfast Club doing in our fire at will pilot warbirds with immunity and plasma explosions. That sort of thing hurts PvP. Had a lot of fun doing it. Like the fleet of, which will remain nameless, had a lot of fun beating them 15-2, but it's that kind of thing that turns people away from PvP, when really it is an important facet of the game. It will never be a 50% of people are going to be playing it, but at the moment there's only a very, very tiny percentage of people playing it, and if you can even double or triple that, and Cryptic, this is a message to you, if you can even double or triple that, that will help your in-game retention so much, because it's a reason to come back into the game apart from your in-game content. And it sort of perplexes me of why PvP doesn't get more attention than it does. Like, I know that some of the PvPers have been asking for new maps, that sort of stuff. Don't worry about any of that. Pay some attention to the abilities that you're setting up for PvE to work specifically or differently in PvP, and PvPers will come back to the game. Like in the PvP chat channel that I'm in, OPvP, sometimes I call it organised QQ, but that's a separate story. There are people that I haven't seen for months come in, that have been popping in back in recently, just to see what the state of the game is, and then they'd pop out again because not much has changed. So I think that sort of says to me, if I was in charge of player retention, the fact that they're logging back in to see what's going on and they go again, that means they want to come back. They want to see what the state of the game's like. They want to, they've had friends here. They want to play with them again, but they're not going to put up with the crap that PvP is at the moment. And for the most part, it is crap. The people that are hanging on to PvP at the moment are the hardcore guys, the ones that are having fun no matter what. It's now like this guy Keris in his post. He summed it up perfectly. It's what PvP is at the moment is not about skill and effort. It's basically a paper, scissors, rock game. Whoever can have the right ability or the right immunity active at that time wins. And it has become people with better gear wins. And it was never like that in the past. Skill and flying ability was important in PvP as much as the gear you got on your ship. And now it's not like that anymore, and that's pretty sad for PvP.
Indeed. Well said.
Anything else, Mikey? Because that's pretty much all I got to say.
I
No?
think before
What was
my
next,
team
Dodo?
jumps in. Yeah, I got a couple PvP videos up where, Astro Zombie, kicked my butt a couple of times, and then we played together with Corbin. We shot down a bunch of people, and a couple of them, that we've lost. But when you lose a game that's a close match, where it's
Even when I've
fair,
lost, I've had a ball when I've lost because
exactly.
some of the closest fights I've ever had, I lost, and that sucks. But when it's a 14-15 loss, you don't feel that bad.
It was a 14-15 loss where it's like, okay, you know what? He beat me because he was a better pilot and he activated the right abilities that had counters to it, but either he just slightly bested me or I messed up somewhere. That's fine. That's great. I can live with that and come back and be competitive again. That's no problem.
That's not happening now, though.
It's not happening now. It's literally 45 seconds out of a minute. Somebody's immune to stuff. And then, because of me, another 8 seconds on top of that. And then after that, it's like, oh, look at this. You don't have this ship. Boom, boom, you're dead.
Yeah,
No,
exactly right.
It's not fun. All right. Going off with that, I believe that we have some information here from our Chief Logistics Officer concerning one famous critter that we were talking about here.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to shoot all the QQ down. I'm sorry, guys. That's all nice. Go back to the locker room with that. Loot Critter, our buddy from Loot Critter. A while back, and I found out about this before he officially released it, so I had to sit on this until he actually released it. He sent off a long series of questions about starship creation in STO to Thomas the Cat, Thomas Marone. And he was wanting to know what goes into the starship creation. He wanted to know where they get their inspiration, the whole 9 yards. And he actually got a response, and it was an amazingly long response. So what he's decided to do, as he's posted on lootcritter.com, is he's going to do a 5-week release series, releasing the information behind all of these answers to the public so that we have a better in-depth view of how Thomas the Cat and the other ship designers come about their ideas for making these things and how they design them and what anything and everything you'd probably want to know about starship design for STO. Now, that in itself is absolutely amazing. We're getting details on their inner workings for design, for the starships, for their creativity. That is nice in its own. Loot Critter, on top of that, has decided that with that, he's going to do a 5-week contest where you're signed up for his blog. He's going to be doing questions every week. 2 questions. And you answer the questions, you get entries into the contest. Well, the prizes are going to make you want to be a part of this because, from what I understand, Trendy has authorized Zen gifts on top of what he's giving away. So with his contest, your first prize is an Anorak Science Dreadnought plus 1,500 Zen from Trendy. Your second prize is a Jem'Hadar Strike Ship plus 1,000 Zen. And your third prize is 900 Lobi towards the Lobi ship of your choice plus 500 Zen. And all you have to do is answer 2 questions a week. And then you get bonus entries, he says, for signing up for his blog here on his website and following him on Twitter. So you're really not doing much. In the meantime, you have the opportunity to win something fantastic, but more of the focus is simply he's releasing a lot of information that is directly from a developer. In his case, he loves the Starship. He loves Starship's designs. He's a Starship collector from me talking to him. He wanted to know more about that, and he gets to release actual information directly from a dev. You can't get any better than that. I mean, the only way we could get better for us on the show would be to have someone releasing the actual coding behind weapons and resistance and all that, so we could have the actual math instead of having to test it out and figure it out. If we literally had it in front of us written out. For Loot Critter, he's got his version of that written on a golden platter for him. and then he's going to get to release it to us. So that starts, if I'm reading this correctly, he's going to start this coming week, and then he's going to announce the winner at the end of October. So it's something to keep track of because he's posting these questions every week, and it's probably going to be very easy to answer these questions if you're paying attention to his posts. So it's everybody go to lootcritter.com or follow him at lootcritter on Twitter. The guy does an amazing blog to begin with, and this is just another reason why you'd want to go there to get the information. And that's all I've got for right now.
Interesting.
So Loot Critter is literally opening up his loot chest and just saying, hey, here you guys go. Thank you very much for supporting us here at lootcritter.com.
Well, not only that, I mean, it's an impressive edit. He's gotten Trendy and Cryptic to open their loot crates as well, to some degree, which is very nice.
Well, we know you're listening out there, Loot. Thank you very much for doing this and for getting the community engaged and for the information you're going to give us from Thomas. We love to see what he has to say and what you have as far as your opinions on it as well. I personally enjoy your blog, and I would like to see more of what you have coming down in the future. I know you got something else up your Ferengi lobes now, so we're probably going to see this around season 11, is my guess. But definitely we're going to be staying tuned, and we're going to be keeping an eye on you, especially our Chief Intelligence Officer. Right, moving along here. Speaking of ship design, though, didn't we have a new ship that came out? Something about a goddess? Something about multiple pieces, something about it splitting out, and something about people getting upset that it has a command seating on this.
Three
Please.
chicks at the same time.
Hey, this is not DPS After Dark yet. But, we'll bring it up there. So, Chief Emergency Role-Playing Hologram.
Yes.
I hear you're a fan of this ship. Please, tell me what the MVAE is.
I am a huge fan of the Prometheus from the TV shows. Prometheus is actually my favorite ship, with a very close second being the Sovereign. So I've been really looking forward to the T6. It's a Hestia class, is it called? Coming out, and they've released the stats, and I believe the ship is coming out tomorrow with the patch, along with a revamp of the T5 Prometheus. But yeah, looking at the stats, the not much, like comparing the T6 with the Tier 5U, there is a increase in hull strength. Shield modifier is still the same. The main change, though, let's take a look at the bridge officer stations. 1 ensign tactical, 1 lieutenant tactical, 1 commander tactical, lieutenant commander engineering / command, and 1 lieutenant commander science. The one thing about that is I was actually really expecting this ship to come with a pilot seat. I'm not too sure why it got a command seat. And I know a sticking point for some folks is why the ensign tactical? Why not like a universal?
That's me, one of them.
Yeah. I do agree with you there. The universal would have been, I don't know. The ensign tactical, I think, is personally a little bit of a waste. But let's look down a bit more. So it comes with a new T6 trait. Numerical superiority. After achieving level 5 of the Advanced Escort T6 Starship Mastery, you will unlock the numerical superiority starship trait, While slotted, you gain a small damage boost that increases as more allies target your targeted foe. So what's your take on that? You think that would be a good thing to for folks to add to their salvo, or?
It could be good. It really depends on what the numbers are. I wish that they'd put the exact numbers in with these step logs.
I see senses of cheese on this. I mean, they
So
came
do
out
I.
and said that pets won't count, but we're wondering photonic fleet. We're wondering, well, they did say that other modules from like the Gal-X separation or the Shashar separation will count as two individual allies attacking. So, one wonders photonic fleet or a couple other things that we could probably find that our Chief of Cheesy Tactics here will find and be able to exploit will probably affect this trait.
Pretty much, I would see it depends on the values of certain activatables we have, like Fleet Support or Nimbus Pirate, or the Delta activatable. If they count as pets,
Hello? Hello? Weird. Gives. Mic check, mic check. Mic check. Hell. Hmm.
and I see potential for the tactical only because Federation SRO officers. That's something that can be slotted. It could have been a universal, but my question, just like him, is down. Oh, gee.
I forgot about the lag.
Probably about 17 seconds, but yeah, it's weird. I don't even see a stream stop. It's still there. Can you guys hear me? 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, the stream should be back up and running, so. Question is, can everybody hear us? Weird. Probably about 17 seconds, but yeah, It's weird. I don't even see a stream stop. It's still there. Can you guys hear me? 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, the stream should be back up and running, so. Question is, can everybody hear us? Hang on, guys. Hang on. I gotta redo this. Let me reconnect. Because this is just nuts. Can you guys talk now?
Yeah, I'm here.
Perfect. All right, we're back up and running.
I'm
So
still
start talking.
Hello, hello, hello.
All right. The ship is nice to me. I was going over how it could be used as a torpedo boat with overwhelming emitters and concentrate firepower, or a FAW boat with a built-in gravity well and destabilized resonance beam combination. So I could see a few things that could go on with the fleet version of this boat. I'd probably pick up the fleet. I don't know about the C-store version, and I won't know until tests on the trait are done.
Yep.
But I could use the fleet version.
Yeah, I used to use the T5 version a lot because it was my favorite ship and it was kind of my go-to. I actually used to run a cannon build on it, which is another note that's in here. Can load dual cannons, which is cool. So the stats look pretty similar. The only other change from Fleet T6 over T5U is 5 tactical, 3 engineer, and 3 science, where before it was 5, 2, and 3. Plus, before on T5U you were getting plus 15 to weapon powers. Now you're getting plus 15 to power and engines. So aesthetically, I think it looks really sexy. I love the new nacelle design that is on these ships. I can't wait to see it in game. I think Thomas did a really good job on this ship personally. It looks just sleek and sexy, and yeah, I might have to do a cinematic video of it.
Absolutely.
Styling wise, it's fantastic, and I know I know I said I wouldn't pipe up, but I won't. But where it lost me was the ensign tax seat.
Yes.
That's the. As soon as I read that, I was completely turned off the ship. That's a remnant from Sea ships of old. It doesn't look like, they upgraded the lieutenant engineering to lieutenant engineering and gave it a command. That's really good, but keeping that ensign tax seat really turns off the ship. The other thing that really turned me off the ship was the point to impulse modifier. It's too slow.
One of
other escorts.
things with all these escorts is we've had a few escorts now with 5-2, and going back to the 4-3 layouts just to me isn't very appealing. It's just
but that wouldn't be a deal breaker for me. I could live with that. It will not be as fast as other more recently released escorts because of the impulse modifier, and that ensign seat just burnt me, to be honest.
Yeah.
But styling wise, I think it looks epic.
Oh yeah, I love it. I love it. I can't wait to see it. Thomas, if you're listening to this, awesome job, dude. Like, wow. Like, this is worthy of a cinematic video.
indeed.
Definite props on the design.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to come in here a little bit and interject for a second, because there have been a lot of people who were on both the Reddit forums as well as the ARC forums stating that, this ship is GIMP because it had the command seating on it. I have my own bias for it and why command will be good seating on it. But even when you're running cannons or energy weapons, you will find options within the command bridge seating that would benefit energy weapons. Actually, 2 of them will benefit energy weapons, where only 1 will benefit torpedoes. Then there are other things that would universally benefit your team. So the options are there. I mean, it may not be, hey, you don't have a fly or a part on there, but you do have overwhelm emitters, and what's the other one? Suppression barrage? On the outside, but in the team setting, those 2 right there are they're phenomenal. They are phenomenal, period. And then for everybody in the kinetic community, or people who wanted to try out a Torp but couldn't figure out how, and you're not a vet, this ship, with the command seating that it has available to you, you can slot a Concentrate Firepower 3 and then 2 other engineering abilities and be good. And be really good. And you could throw in one of your favorite kinetic Torp on your boat and then enjoy the high yield 1 potential, where you're going to get all that massive damage if you load up on crit D versus high yield 3. So you won't have to worry about your high yield 3 seating. You can slot Faw. You can then throw on a high yield 1 or a Torp spread 1, and then get a free high yield 1 every time you get the proc for it.
But why would you commit Lieutenant Commander Engineering to one of the weapons on your ship? That's my, not trying to get in the ship build discussion, but that's why I wouldn't do that. Emergency powder weapons 3, all the way.
Well, while you would do that, and you see, here's the thing, you can customize it the way you want. You would say emergency power to weapons 3 for that, and then have something like overwhelm emitters 2, right? Something like that.
I probably wouldn't use any of the commands.
Or you probably just go Drake build on it. Is it Drake or Dragon? Which one is the one that alternating EP?
No, I don't know.
All right, it's one of those two.
You've got reciprocity anyway, so
right. Well, while you would say reciprocity, for those who don't have reciprocity but you want to add a little bit more bang to your buck, you could throw on energy weapons and then a Torp, and then that one Torp shot leads to multiple Torp shots, and you have your pets available to you that'll give you multiple Torp shots. So that one Torp now suddenly becomes multiple Torps just by slotting a concentrated fire. No, that's using any Torp. You just fire a Torp and you have a concentrate firepower 3 on the target, you get a free high yield 1.
Which is guaranteed to miss 30% of the time and not give you the damage you want 30% of the time.
Only if you use the Tri-Cobalt or the Temporal Disruption device. Okay? Throw on a Neutronic, throw on a Gravimetric. Actually, you probably want to throw on a Neutronic or Enhanced Biomolecular if you're going to go the high yield route. Those are your 2 best bangs for your buck right there. Otherwise, you want to throw on... No, you don't want to throw that garbage on there. Please. Anyway, listen, let the grown people talk here for a moment, okay? You throw on that torpedo, you throw on Concentrate Firepower 3 on like the Gateway or Attack Cube or some big structure there. And then you see the torpedo spam that you have while all of your weapons are firing. You have, hey, look, I fired a torpedo. Now I get a high yield 1. Fire it again. Oh, look, another high yield 1. Fire it again. Oh, look, another high yield 1. For 12 seconds. Do it. You're done. Just try it out. You might like it. Now, I will agree with you. I will 100% agree with you that instant slot should have been a universal. Should have been. Period. Otherwise, everything is good. Any other comments about the ship?
Don't make the same mistake with a Tier 6 Brill, Defiant, and Tavaro. Signing off.
I'm throwing my credit card at the screen and nothing's happening, so...
Patiently awaiting a T6 Odyssey.
Patiently awaiting a pilot-style T6 Defiant.
Here, T6 Odyssey. But,
and Burrell.
I don't think we're going to see the T6 Odyssey anytime soon, unfortunately.
Not this year.
I am looking forward to an Intel Tier 6 Scimitar.
And you are looking for more cheese. That's never going to happen. So, sorry.
I'm also looking for a return to my plasma explosion crits.
Something to add.
That Tier 6 Scimitar needs to have 6 attack consoles and needs to have 6 forward weapon slots.
No. How about 7 science consoles?
Yeah, even that. I'll take that as well.
You want a Tolworth Extreme, don't you?
Just remember, guys, that they've already stated that whatever the Scimitar is, they're going to try their best to balance the Odyssey and the Border Skew with them. So whatever you suggest for the Odyssey,
well, they can't make it any worse than the T5. I mean,
than the Galaxy.
Sales.
I just got to add about the Prometheus before we go on to the next topic. The updates to the Tier 5 Prometheus will be automatic and free for any variant of the Advanced Escort class, but folks might have to go to the ship customization window and choose Prometheus to see the changes. I can't remember exactly what the things were added. I think they added more defined escape pods. Here it is. Improved surface details as well as escape pods and a hull material unique to the advanced escort line of starships. So as you can see on the screen right now, some pictures of it, but I'm going to wait to get into game tomorrow and get my up-close high-res render scale 3 photos of it, and yeah, that's all I have to say about the Prometheus. Take my money, give me my Promi.
I'm tempted to buy it
worthy of
just
Red the Skull for.
because.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm like half tempted. I mean, I have the Manticore. I love it. It's the only ship to ever get me out of the Defiant, and I still fly the Defiant. But I'm half tempted to just get this thing and just, if for nothing else, just to see what this thing can do.
Yeah. Yeah, it's. I used to be Prometheus, and like you, Odin, the Chimera Manicore pulled me out of the Prometheus. Like once I hit 1,000 days, because I'm a month-to-month, folks. I straight up and down, black and white, love the Chimera. And when the Manicore came out, I actually had a back and forth conversation with Thomas, and Thomas told me that. The Manicore is one of his favorite ships as well. So, but
I would have to say, segueing back into the Prometheus style, the Manicore, well-designed ship. Kudos to whoever made it. It's beautiful. You can design that thing 15 ways to Sunday and still not run out of options. Well done. Well done. We would have loved to seen something like this with the Prometheus. I understand you don't want to try and step all over the Manicore's toes, but the ensign slot should at the very least been universal, or make the lieutenant commander one a universal one instead of just straight tack. Make it a universal and give it a couple more options for it. I understand you want to make this more of a tactical heavy style ship, but universal seating would have been nice for this thing.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, I'm done crying over this thing because it's a thing of beauty, and we're gonna wait and see what the stats are in the trait for some of us. Which, slight tangent, please sell trait packages. It'd be nice. That is all. All right, next item up for business. What do we have here? Well, considering that we had this whole Prometheus ship, and we started talking about a little bit of ship design, what's going on with this whole ship design your own ship thing that Thomas has been kicking around?
I like it.
I don't think it's Thomas's.
Was it Thomas or somebody else's?
I think this was Trendy's Project Pantheon.
It was. It was her Project Pantheon.
It's a great project.
Yeah, I really like it. So essentially, what's happening is I thought I had the link up, and I don't because I'm an idiot. Let me here. Was it starting Friday? They're doing a design your ship. Timber and I were actually having a conversation before the show that the design your ship. That main title might be a little misleading,
to say the least. Yeah.
But at least in the description, when they actually talk about what's coming up, like we're looking for dedicated captains to assist with the construction of our latest ships. Over the next 2 weeks, the teams will be designing a new Federation carrier with the help of players like you, and it looks like they're going to be doing it on a voting system. So they have 8 different versions up. I still need to kind of look at them more to kind of figure out where I'm going to cast my vote. I heard somebody wants to go with the Omega and try and see if we can get a Jupiter class. Oh God, Starbase with 4 nacelles. Please don't do Jupiter class. Please don't do Jupiter.
I think this is a great move.
So do I.
The only thing I'd say is I'd love to also see a Romulan and KDF version of this.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Oh, definitely.
Being my main is a Romulan, would love to be able to do the same there.
I mean, I get it. You see a lot more Fed players than you do KDF or ROM, but a lot of those Fed players also have alts that they would like to play more and they would like to see more ship varieties. This is one of those situations where if you build it, they will come. They will come.
Yeah. Yeah, and don't forget, this is one specific ship. This could be the start of a ongoing project in, a ship, one ship every 6 months. This time it's a Fed ship. Next time it could be a KDF ship. Time after that could be a ROM ship. But definitely a great move on their part. Definitely a great move. And the fact that they're able not just give us little icons on it, you can actually click on them and make them bigger, and really get down to the nitty gritty of the detail on each ship. There's features on each of them that appeals to me, and it's going to be a very hard decision, I think, to choose.
I will say. Go on.
I was just going to say, I got to make a little retraction. I know I just said that the voting starts on Friday. It actually starts tomorrow, Thursday. Don't mind me. I'm on just coming off of night shift, so I'm all messed up. Thank you, Darth Proteus, for pointing that out.
Also, Luke Critter, I'm watching you in chat, by the way. I just want to let you know that he has said that he is known ahead of time about this. This is part of his detail, and he said that the system was preventing him from saying that KDF and RAMI versions will come if this initial initiative is successful. So we are looking at that if they can make this into a success with the Federation, there will be KDF and RAMI design your own starships coming down the road.
Awesome.
That's cool.
Good.
Awesome.
Now, what I wanted to say here was initially when I saw the title, and I didn't read any of the description, I just saw the title, the little kid in me was like, oh yes, I get to go back to my NASA logbook and go through all the little starship designs and ship designs for NASA's 21st century future ship project, and actually put some of those ideas into this game, and it's like, see what's happening, and I'm like, right, it's like, oh, I don't get to throw my own designs on there. But
That was the thing I was talking with Alan, was they're advertising it as a design your own, and then it's really you're picking a preset design, which is fine. They've got 8 good designs here we can pick from, and we are shaping what the next carrier is. It's literally the players voting on it, but I think it should have been choose the next carrier and not design. Because we're not really designing it, we're just picking a design that they're working with. Carrier. And for me, it's simply wording. Like, that's because they've got good options there, and I'm going to vote for it. I absolutely will. And if they do KDF and Romulan, then absolutely I'm going to vote for those too. For me, it was just change the wording a little, and that could be just me.
I think we're just nitpicking there. I think the initiative is good.
Yeah. The initiative is. Don't get me wrong. The initiative is great. It's just the little kid me is just like So, but yeah, the initiative is good. Now
I think we should let the program run its course and then give a summary of it once we've seen everything that we can choose, and probably even before the final iteration comes out. So give a summary of how we think this sort of initiative's gone. Instead of just giving the call on the first thing.
Well, no. What I'm wanting to look forward to is, okay, we've got 8 designs for ships. I'm hoping the next thing is bridge officer layout, where we can pick our own what the best bridge officer layout is. Then the console slotting, whether it has secondary deflector. If we're really not just doing the actual design, if we're actually doing bridge officers and consoles, mastery traits, the actual final trait, if we're going all the way down, we're picking everything for this ship, that would be amazing to me. That literally would be designing the ship.
You know what else would be cool to be, I hope this is maybe something that's factored in the design, quote-unquote design process, will we get to have a say? Like, will it have its own new bridge?
Good question.
Bridge design. That would be nice too.
That would be a really cool element for something to vote on. Like, I said this last week. We could definitely use more interiors, and another bridge to select from would be awesome.
They did clarify on Reddit that we are only picking the design. We have no say in the bridge officer's console layout, trait, etc.
Oh,
Oh,
but it's still good. It's still good.
Yeah.
It's still good.
Good.
We're just stretching our imaginations a lot. We're not going off of any weird assumption or expectation here. We were just stretching our own imaginations, and we're saying awe to our own imaginations, not to what Cryptic is doing here. So let's make that
Yeah.
clear. Let's make that clear
absolutely.
right now. There was
We
no
still got-
expectation from Cryptic that we're going to do all these grandiose things, and then we're suddenly let down. This is ourselves letting ourselves down because we were imagining a whole bunch of possibilities, which may give
Because
them
we got
ideas
excited.
in the future. But it's got us excited in this still.
And
We're still
I will
excited.
suggest if we have on the next project, we have the choice of the bridge officer layout or the bridge itself, where we can choose the bridge for a brand new one. Just you go from step 1 here with just the design. Step 2, we get to pick 2 things, and then 3 things. That's really getting the people involved on what they want to see in the game. The more and more you're getting them into that design with you at Cryptic, the more you're going to get to see a sense of what the players are wanting to see. And I think it's a great start to it.
And this could lead over to something later on down the road if you ever go into it. Ship modding. Pay, a licensing fee for a ship mod kit, design it out, throw it out there, and see who buys it. Revenue. Just saying.
Yeah.
You know what? You know what I think? All of us in the show should pick a design that we like, explain why we like it, and then, see what the rest of the audience would do, and then cast their own vote for which one of the designs that we pick they like. How
I've
about
already
that?
pretty much chosen mine.
Well,
So
I
have
got
I.
mine on the screen right now, the Sigmund, only because, I'm sorry, in this century here, you're looking at streamlined design, efficiency of engines, you want to keep your most vulnerable points as low profile as possible, and this is a ship that has that covered. It has it covered.
And I voted
Sig-
for the Sigma as well. I really
Sigma
did.
looks weenie.
Considering some of the
Dude,
other
it's
choices,
not
I
weedy.
even. I mean, one of the choices that I saw honestly reminded me of the carrier from the Star Trek Incursion game from PlayStation 1, that kind of bulky, heavy carrier. Whereas the Sigma to me was more sleek, streamlined, yet it was so compact that it had a low profile when it comes to an enemy trying to target it. That's what it said to me, and I just think it fits the bill for elegance, but hidden aggression. Because with a Federation ship, it's very elegant, but it's got a lot of power behind it to defend itself. That was why I made the choice.
On top
Well,
of
for
that,
me-
from an engineering standpoint, from a functional engineering standpoint, a structural engineering standpoint, it makes sense to design the ship this way. Ease of access to fixing things. You have a more robust hull whenever it's taking damage. You can actually fit more craft or whatever else you're transporting in there. And it can be deployed easily and then brought back in easily. You have a low profile for your most vulnerable parts here, which are your nacelles. So those are small, low profile. They're tight to the ship. Your shielding is not going to have any sort of weird shaping to it, which will weaken the shield strength. Now I'm doing off of actual physics here, where you have like the Omega, for example. You're going to have to stretch your field lines around that. I'm sorry, that's not going to work.
For me, it's Gamma. I love this. I love the Saucer of Gamma. I reckon it's that sort of that slit that's going up the front of the saucer pretty much fits in with some of the ship designs that we've seen more recently from Trek. I love the offset stacked nacelles, and it has got a very, very thin profile when looking at it from side view. I was looking at not Theta was the other one I was looking at. Not so much for the saucer, but there's something about the secondary hull that's very rare that speaks Excelsior to me.
Yes.
And that's sort of what attracted me to Theta, but I just couldn't get past the saucer of Theta, and that's why I'm going to choose Gamma in the end.
Well, you know what? I would say from an Excelsior standpoint, yeah, the Theta looks good. The engine profile also looks good, although it's too damn long. I mean, sorry. Technology is advanced. Shrink in nacelles. You can generate a stable field for whatever the heck you need to do with a smaller nacelle design than the larger one. This little gap here, I take it that's for launching whatever fighters or shuttles that you have. So that could make sense. Theta was kind of my third. And it
I don't know
kind
why
of is
SOB
growing on
likes
me.
Delta so much.
People like Delta?
SOB does.
Well, you know your wife. He
When
likes a
did
lot
I
of weird
say I
things.
like Delta?
Before the show, you said that you love Delta. And
I
that you're
think
gonna
Delta looks bad. That saucer is
God.
just terrible.
Dude, you said that you love Delta.
That saucer is just terrible. It
That's
hurts
not
to
what you were
look at.
saying before the show, man. You were saying that you love it and that you wish your scimitar looked just like it.
It's
Oh,
not so much the
wow.
saucer. I think the nacelles on that top view are just too close together. You know what it looks like? Kind of like a pizza cutter from the top.
It kind of does.
And that's why
I-
SOB likes it, because he constantly eats pizza.
Cheese pizza?
Wow.
Exactly.
That's
I'm
extra
stuck
cheese.
between. I'll have to say between Gamma and Sigma. Sigma, I do like the layout of it better. The saucer on Gamma, not the biggest fan of it.
I'm very picky about my 4 nacelle ships, and right this moment, none of the ones with 4 nacelles really stand out to me. Like it just nothing's really working.
Ooh, he's got to go Theta.
Theta, I can see a lot of people picking Theta mainly because out of all the choices, it has the more traditional Starfleet look to it.
This is true.
The secondary hull looks like we've said, the Excelsior, and almost like the Ambassador. The saucer is a little spearheadish. Like I kind of like, with the exception of the Prometheus, of course. I like my Federation saucers round. I can see a lot of people gravitating to this just because it kind of looks traditional. But for right now, from what I'm seeing in front of me, Theta is looking good, but I'm going to see what they do with the contest starting tomorrow and go from there.
Anyone else on their picks before we move on? All right, so we're going to jump off to our next subject here. So as I pull that up, blah, blah, blah. Real quick, let's go through a couple of things here before we wrap up here. Let's go with the Cardassian revamp. How was that one? Episode 3, The Factory. How was that one coming along?
So I took a quick trip to Tribble. They're not available yet to test play. But yeah, episode number 3 is called The Factory. Is the third of the 4 episodes in the updated Cardassian arc. This one, from the description on the blog, it looks like it focuses on the Alpha Quadrant Jem'Hadar. So that looks like that'd be an interesting mission. And then we had a blog release today for episode number 4 called The New Link. So I'm assuming this will be something based around the Foundry, or not Foundry, Founders. And it looks like they have a brand new interior for this, or not interior, but a brand new map for this mission as well. So I don't have too many comments on that because it's not released on Tribble to play. I don't know if they will be releasing it to play, or if they're just announcing the blogs and I have to wait till season 11. But they did release one other thing today, another blog about another STF. This one will be Ground on Terrak Nor, which is a 5-person cross-faction ground queue. Again, that one wasn't up on Tribble, so I wasn't able to really play around with that. But I'm sure if they do release it, we'll get on there and get our boots dirty and see, check it out for ourselves, the lot of us in here.
Thank you very much for that. I'm sure that you guys can eventually convince me to get my boots dirty on the ground, but I'll definitely need a medic or 2 just to get rid of the headache that I'll have after I have to clean my damn
You'd be
boots off.
surprised that Taxon Ground actually make pretty good medics. I see a lot of posts about how they don't, but Motivation and Rally Cry alone are actually pretty decent.
You see, I need lessons from you because it's like I look at this and I'm like, hey, I just want to point, click, shoot, boom, done. You know,
Yeah,
forget
it's
even the
actually
click.
a lot of
Just,
fun on ground. But again, I like to throw heals and shit. So
that's true. I tend to play like the DPS slash support role in other games, so I would actually enjoy doing that if it wasn't clunky. So if I got taught properly, it would be less
it's not
clunky
too
for me.
bad. You can also slot intel and command modules and things like that to variegate your class. Even if you're attack, you can still slot like what is it? I think take cover.
Right.
When you crouch, it restores hit points.
Sweet. I gotta try that out. Well, you know what? Funny thing though, we definitely have to say as far as bringing the word out. Trendy started something up here, and I got privy to a little bit of what she was doing over the weekend, and now it's official. There is a entity on the forums now called the Starfleet Media Corps, where you, if you're a podcaster, broadcaster, streamer, whatever you have that's related to STO and you broadcast it out for other people to listen to, go and post on the forum there, and then Trendy will give you a tag. Obviously, the rules on it, you have to state the time in Pacific Standard Time when you're broadcasting. Don't adjust for daylight savings time or anything else. Just put it as it is right now. There's a reason for why Trendy wants it in PST. So we don't know what it is yet. We'll probably find out eventually. But just put in PST, honor the wishes. And then in your description, just write out what time you broadcast from yourself, for yourself in your time zone. And I would also advise that if you are overseas, or you know what, for everybody should do this, whether you're in the continental United States or not, everybody should do this. Broadcast, put the broadcast time for what Trendy needs, which is PST, Pacific Standard Time. Then also put your time zone for when you're broadcasting, and in parentheses, put GMT, Greenwich Mean Time. That way everybody can calculate from there what time you're going to be on and make the adjustments for themselves. Just put GMT on there as well and be done with it. But you'll be able to go onto the forums. By the way, the ARC forums, much better redesign now. Thank you very much to whoever did that. It's much less of a headache to try and navigate through the sub forums.
God, so much better.
It's like light years better. Like, thank you very much for making my life easier. Please, thank you. Give that person a raise. Much better. You'll be able to see it there. You'll be able to see the Starfleet Media Corps and thread. Sorry, it's late. Forgive me. And I believe you'll get to see the show's episode posted on there shortly on its first posting on the Media Corps. So I guess we get to make our own thread and say, hey, look, here it is, and everybody can comment. So I recommend everybody go and comment. Even if you want to say, hey, I just saw this here, and Old Knight, you're an idiot for running Torps because you need your head examined. Yeah.
Yeah, that was me.
That was you. Really? Yeah. I'll make sure that Spencer puts some extra loving on your cheese. Really. Yes.
I'd expect nothing less.
I hope so.
Wow.
Any closing comments, gents?
Nope, can't think of any.
I think we've all gas bagged enough.
Yes, we will definitely be touching much, much more on PvP, and we've had somebody earmarked for PvP, but they haven't showed up yet.
I'd like to at least mention that sometime in the near future, I think we'll be having some sort of structured PvP event, coordinated through Reddit chat and STO build. So keep your eyes open for that. It's not a new idea, but bringing it to a bigger audience might actually have some positive effects. So we'll see.
Definitely gotta love it, man. You know what? Just count me in on that, especially if it's low tier ships. I want to see what shenanigans I
all
can do.
kinds of different things. Yeah,
Whatever ship Spencer says he's going to use, he's going to bring the exact opposite in. So just be aware of that.
Okay.
I would like to do a public service announcement before we leave. One of the things in the patch notes that is probably got a lot of people upset is they have pushed back the double XP weekend. It will not be happening this weekend, and they have not set a date on when it will happen. Not sure why. We've posted a few questions to Twitter just to see if they could give us a better understanding as to why they pushed it back, but that will be happening. We won't be having the double XP weekend starting tomorrow.
Wow. Okay, so that is definitely going to be big there. No double XP weekend. So is there anything going to replace it as far as an
No.
event?
Nothing right now. It's still on the calendar in game, so they haven't updated the calendar. So far, no listing of a replacement. So more than likely, just simply it's week 3 of the featured episode and normal weekend as follows.
Interesting. So hopefully they'll actually give us something in place of double XP weekend. I mean, I'm sure I could use like a bonus R&D weekend again, you know, because stuff.
If I was to guess, and I'm purely speculating, purely guessing, it could be something to do with the past few weekends. There have been several server issues and network issues that they've had to deal with that have interfered with the bonus weekends,
Mm-hmm.
and possibly they're waiting until they can make for sure those issues are 100% gone. That's my educated guess.
I think that I was with you, Chris. You know, before the beginning of the show, that's one of the things that I suggested as well. But looking at the calendar, I think it's more about spacing. The bonus XP was meant to be this weekend, and then there was nothing for nearly a month before the next Dilithium weekend. So I think it's more about event spacing than anything else. They're going to postpone this for a week, possibly 2, so they've got something for the middle of October, and then 2 weeks after that's a Dill weekend. So that would be my 2 cents worth on that.
All right. Well, thank you very much for the information, and especially that PSA. And on behalf of our Chief Logistics Officer, our Chief Intelligence Officer, who's undercover right now, we won't tell you when and where, but we all know it involves Pac-Led somewhere. Our Chief Science Officer, our Chief of Smelly and Cheesy, Ultra Cheesy Tactics, which, by the way, both of you two, thank you very much. Can we get like a picture of you two holding a neutronic torpedo between you? We'd love that. Just don't make it
That would be
X-rated, okay?
cute.
Just don't make it X-rated.
The
Snipey's gonna go
explosions could be
in.
little bows on top of their heads. That would be just.
Snipey's gonna go get my character and edit it into a video and demo
I
record.
never said. Why would I do that? I wouldn't
Why
do
would
that.
he do that? He just takes a video of you in real life doing it now. Yes.
Exactly.
Exactly. Our Chief Ironic Medic, who's going to teach me how to do ground PvP as well as heal people on the ground. Thank you very much,
And I'm
sir.
gonna
I'll be
teach you
taking
how to
lessons.
hug.
Oh, you teach me how to hug. Can I do it with a batleth? Please? Please? Our
You
Chief
can do it with the
Snarky.
battler, but it's not
Yes.
nice hug.
Thank you. Our Chief Snarky Emergency Role-Playing Hologram. And this Chief Stuttering Strategic Operations Officer. We bid you all farewell and good night. We'll see you in game.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.